economy will shrink by nearly 3% this year, the worst of all the advanced economies, according to the International Monetary Fund. In its latest forecast, it warns that the world is facing the most severe economic downturn since the Second World War. And here, the Institute for Fiscal Studies says that Britain will be saddled with government debt for more than 20 years, as Hugh Pym reports now.
For the world economy, the outlook for this year is grim, and the UK, with a fall of 2.8% in economic output, will do worse than other major industrialised nations, according to the IMF. It makes no bones about the severity of the world crunch.
It is a very bad crisis. It's a very deep recession by any standard. We haven't seen anything like this since the World War II.
Looking further afield, beyond the London Olympics and President Obama's maximum term, things don't look good for the public finances. Someone may well have landed on Mars by the time the government debt overhang falls away. Gordon Brown had set a ceiling of debt at 40% of annual economic output, but it's set to rise to 57% and not get back to 40 till the year 2031. That's the view of the Institute for Fiscal Studies. The credit crunch has hit tax revenues hard, with lower stamp duty on house sales, for example, and from share trading. The IFS estimates there'll be a tax shortfall of £7 billion this year on what the Treasury expected.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All of which set the tone for stormy exchanges in the Commons.
And today we're told the debt he's building up will take a generation to pay off. What we've had from this Prime Minister is denial about the past, continuing today, failure in the present, and debt for the future. Shouldn't those be the death throes of a failed premiership?
He mentioned the Institute of Fiscal Studies. They also said, in current circumstances, the cost of doing nothing is larger than the cost of acting. That is the rebuttal to the Conservative policy of doing nothing.
The Treasury's already warned of a public spending clampdown. Education, health and other departments could well see a spending freeze over the next few years as attempts are made to stop the escalation of government debt. But the IFS warns that more tax increases may be needed. It suggests that VAT may have to be imposed on children's clothes and other items where there's currently no VAT payable.
The public finances are now in a terrible state. Depending on the length of the recession, they could well get worse, and there's going to have to be a reckoning at the end of it. And whoever's in government, whatever party's in government, the public finances are going to have to be run in a very austere, disciplined way.
Today's projections don't include any possible government losses from the bank rescue plans, and they assume that investors will keep on funding the government's debt at low interest rates. Those are fairly optimistic assumptions. As always, so much depends on how the economy performs and how quickly consumer confidence returns. We'll have to wait and see whether the IMF or the more optimistic forecasters prove to be correct. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
Well, let's go straight to Downing Street and talk to our political editor, Nick Robinson, who's there. Nick, in view of all this, how do you think the government squares this with its consistent claim that we're better placed in Britain to ride out the economic storm?
In truth, it finds it very, very difficult to do that. You can see the reaction, Hugh, in the eyes of ministers and in the sagging shoulders of many Labour MPs. Only a few weeks ago, they were not using the word recession, and they were defying the doom-mongers and talking of a brown bounce. Now they're being told that there won't just be a recession, it will be the deepest in the developed world, and that bounce has fallen flat, with the poll figures following the economic figures downwards. Massive Tory leads have once more been restored. This, of course, though, is not merely about short-term politics, as Hugh was saying there. It is also about all of our long-term futures, with the Institute of Fiscal Studies predicting that the squeeze on spending and on taxes going up will last not just for a year or two, with freezes in the short term, but potentially until the early 2030s. In other words, when I'm long past claiming my pension, if that is, anyone can afford to pay it by then.
Nick, thank you very much. Nick Robinson, our political editor there. Well, there's been mixed news in the job market today. Asda has announced it is creating 7,000 new jobs as part of an expansion plan. And after strong half-year results, BSkyB is to create 1,000 new jobs. But Shop Direct, one of Britain's biggest home shopping companies, is making 1,000 workers redundant, and Serious Foods, based in Llantrisant, has gone into administration, losing 127 of its 420 workers, and it's blaming poor trading conditions. Now, members of the Scottish Parliament have rejected the budget